Alright, good evening everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We'll be taking a topic in biology this evening which is called endocrine glands. Endocrine glands. Endocrine glands. So what do we mean? What do we mean by endocrine glands? Endocrine gland is what we want to talk about today. So what do we mean by endocrine gland? Endocrine gland can be defined as a system of control in organisms which is responsible for carrying out specific regulations, bringing back specific processes into the normal state. These glands, they are responsible for secreting certain hormones. I said endocrine glands are responsible for secreting hormones. Endocrine glands are responsible for secreting hormones. So that is the major function of the endocrine glands. So they are responsible for secreting chemical substances. These hormones that I just made mention of here, hormones, they are chemical substances. That have the ability to to reverse certain processes. In the body. So this is what happens. Every time our body undergoes any particular fluctuation or abnormality, our body is able to bring back that normalcy, or bring back a normalcy to the body. And how does it do that? It is by the endocrine glands actually secreting certain hormones or chemical substances that have the ability to reverse that particular system. So like I said earlier on, endocrine gland is a system of control in organisms which is responsible for taking care of long-term processes such as growth, takes care of endocrine glands take care of long-term processes like growth, metabolism is another example of the processes that endocrine gland has the ability to regulate. We also talk about reproduction, amongst others. So these are examples of processes that endocrine gland is able to regulate. So the process of regulating these systems or these processes is what brings about the production of chemical substances that we refer to as hormones. So like I said, hormones here, I said hormones are chemical substances that have the ability to reverse certain processes in the body. So let us quickly talk more. Let's shed more light on what we refer to as hormones. So what are hormones? So this is a question that we need to find answer to. So when we talk about hormones, we are talking about functional units in the endocrine system. Hormones are the functional units. Hormones are the functional units of the endocrine system Hormone they are referred to as the functional unit of the endocrine system. So it is these hormones that the endocrine system or the endocrine glands secretes, and then they bring about the regulation or bring about the normalcy to the particular process that is what occurring in the body. So we define hormones as chemical substances that are produced. Hormones, they are produced in one part of the body. Hormones are produced in a specific part of the body, called the site of action, called the site of production. That is where these hormones are produced. They are produced in specific organs in the body, and these organs are referred to as what? The site of production of these specific hormones. And then the hormones are transported to some other sites in the body, called the site of action. It is in this site of action that the effect of the hormone is felt in the body. The effect of the hormone is felt in the site of action. So the hormones are produced in a specific part of the body called the site of production, and then they are transported to other sites of the body where they are actually needed, where the effect of the hormone is actually needed. So that is where we refer to as the site of action. So like we were saying, the hormones, they are produced in a part of the body called the site of production, and then transported to another part of the body called the site of action. And they are transported through the blood. The blood serves as the medium of transportation of the hormones. The blood is responsible for transporting these hormones. So that is one of the functions of the blood. It is a transport medium. So it helps to transport a lot of materials, including these hormones. So when the hormones are produced by the endocrine glands, they are transported to the site where they are actually needed, called the site of action in the blood. So we will quickly be looking at some endocrine glands that are found in the body. We'll be looking at some endocrine glands that are found in the body. So major endocrine glands. Major endocrine glands found. So for the course of this study, we'll be talking basically on the animals. So major endocrine glands found in animals. So we'll be secluding our discussion today to the animals. So we want to talk about the endocrine glands that are found in the animals. So the first one we'll be talking about is the pituitary gland. The first endocrine gland we'll be talking about is called the pituitary gland. So we will be looking at what the pituitary gland is. We'll be looking at what its function is, how its mode of operation is. So before we do that, let us quickly look at this chart here. If you look at this diagram here, you will find out that we have these are positions of each of the endocrine glands that are found in the body. So you can see here in the head, that is where we have the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is situated in the base of the brain, directly under the hypothalamus. So before we go further, let me quickly make us understand something here. That we have something called the hypothalamus. It is the hypothalamus that helps to identify certain fluctuations in the body. The hypothalamus serves as a regulatory body. Hypothalamus, note. Note, the hypothalamus serves as a regulatory body. Regulatory body or organ in the mammalian system. In the mammalian system, it is the function of the hypothalamus to identify fluctuations. The function of the hypothalamus is to what? Identify if there is any fluctuation in the body, and when these fluctuations are identified by the hypothalamus, then the hypothalamus tries as much as possible to bring about the normalcy that is what needed to the body. So like we were saying, we're discussing the pituitary gland. So here we know that the pituitary gland is a particular type of gland that is found under the hindbrain in the forehead. The pituitary gland is found under the hindbrain, in the forebrain. So that is the location of the pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland is located in the what? In the forebrain, directly under the hindbrain. And so the function of the pituitary gland, function of pituitary gland. So its own function is to what? Is to control all other glands. It controls the actions. Of all other glands. And this particular function of the pituitary gland is the reason why it is called, hence it is called the master gland. Hence it is called what? The master gland, because it has the ability to what? To regulate other processes, to what? Bring about the action of other organs, of other glands in the body. That is why it is referred to as the what? The master gland. So basically that is the function of the pituitary gland. It helps to what? To carry out or to control the actions of all other glands. So that is the major function of the pituitary gland. So it functions for growth and development as well. It is divided into 3 lobes. The pituitary gland functions for growth. So let's tag this one as the first function. So here I can say that what? It functions for growth and development. So that is another function of the hypothalamus. And then it is divided into 3 lobes. The pituitary gland rather is divided into 3 lobes, which plays different roles in hormonal production or secretion. So that is another aspect of the pituitary gland. It is divided into 3 lobes, and these lobes are responsible for the different roles in hormonal production or secretion. So like I said earlier on, here is where we have the what? We have the hypothalamus here, and then underneath here is where we now have the pituitary gland. As you can see, the pituitary gland is located directly underneath the what? The hypothalamus. thalamus. So that is that about the pituitary gland. Let us take the next hormone, the next gland. So the next one that we'll be talking about is the thyroid gland. Thyroid gland. So what is the function of the thyroid gland? Or what do we refer to as the thyroid gland? The thyroid gland is another hormone. It's another gland that produces another hormone that is found in the what? In the neck. The thyroid gland situated or located in the neck. Located in the neck. It produces the hormone it produces the hormone called thyroxine. That is the name of the hormone that is produced by the what? By the thyroid gland. The name of the hormone produced by the thyroid gland is called thyroxine. So what is the function of the thyroxine? The thyroxine is responsible for functions of thyroxine. Function of thyroxine now. So what the thyroxine does is what we quickly want to look at now. So the thyroxine is responsible for taking care of the rate of body metabolism. So it takes care of body metabolism. That is the function of the thyroid gland. Body metabolism, also oxidation of glucose in animals, also takes care of oxidation of glucose in animals. So these are some of the functions of the thyroid gland. It is responsible for what? For body metabolism, as well as taking care of oxidation of glucose in animals. So it is necessary that you understand that this thyroxine contains iodine. The thyroxine is an active hormone that contains what? Iodine. And this iodine is responsible for activating proper mental development and muscle development. I said that what? The thyroxine contains iodine. It contains iodine. And the iodine is what? The iodine So I said it contains iodine. So the iodine is responsible for activating what? Proper mental development. Iodine, which activates proper mental development, mental and muscle development. That is the function of the iodine that is found in the what? The iodine that is found inside the thyroxine. That is the function. It is responsible for what? For activating mental and muscle development. So when we experience growth, that is one of the function of the what? Of the thyroid gland producing thyroxine. Growth is one of the the major function of the thyroxine that is produced in the thyroid gland. So that is that about the second hormone called thyroxine. And like I said, it is located in the neck. So if you look at this, you can see here in the neck here, that is where we have the thyroid gland. So it is in this thyroid gland here that we have the production of the hormone called thyroxine. So the next hormone we'll be talking about now, is going to be the third one, which is the parathyroid gland. The parathyroid gland is the third hormone that we'll be discussing now. Parathyroid gland. The parathyroid gland is another gland that helps to secrete a hormone that is very useful in the body. This parathyroid gland is found directly under the thyroid gland. Found directly under the thyroid gland. So I said that the parathyroid gland is found directly under the thyroid gland, and it has this thyroid, unlike the thyroid gland that has three lobes, that has two lobes. We have the parathyroid gland having 4 lobes. It has 4 lobes, and it secretes. This parathyroid gland secretes a hormone. It secretes its own hormone. It secretes the hormone called parathyroid hormone. That is the name of the hormone that it secretes. It secretes the parathyroid hormone. So the parathyroid hormone is secreted in the parathyroid gland. That is the name of the gland that is producing the parathyroxine. So I said here it secretes the hormone called parathyroxine. Please, the hormone is called parathyroxine. So let me quickly correct that. The parathyroxine, that is the name of the hormone that is actually being produced there. Are we together? Parathyroxine, that is the name of the hormone that is produced in the parathyroid gland. And its function now, the function of the parathyroxine, its own function, the function of the parathyroxine is to control the amount of calcium and phosphate ions in the blood. To control the level of calcium and phosphate ions in the blood, bones, muscles. And nerves. So those are the functions. That is majorly the function of the parathyroid hormone, or the parathyroxine, to control the level of calcium and phosphate ions that are found in the blood, in the bone, in the muscle, as well as in the nerves. So we can see, if we look here, if you check this chart, you find you find the parathyroid gland here, and that is where the parathyroxine is being produced. So you can see it in the female and in the male at the same time. Are we together? So That is what the parathyroid gland is about. And so we move to the next one. The next one is called the adrenal gland. That's the fourth hormone or the fourth gland that we'll be talking about. Adrenal gland. So what is the function of the adrenal gland? How does it operate? So that is what we want to quickly talk about now. The adrenal gland. So the adrenal gland is found at the top of each kidney. The adrenal gland is found on each kidney. On each kidney. So on either of the kidneys you have what? A gland there called the adrenal gland. This is it here that is found on the top of, this is the kidney, so directly under the kidney is where you have the adrenal cortex. So that is what we refer to as the adrenal gland. So it is in this adrenal gland that you now have the secretion of the hormone called adrenaline. It is found on each kidney and secretes the hormone. It secretes the hormone called adrenaline. So that is the name of the hormone that is secreted in the adrenal gland, adrenaline. So its own function, the function of the adrenaline is very, very simple. It dissolves glycogen in the liver to glucose. Function now. The major function of adrenaline. The function of adrenaline. So what it does, what the adrenaline will do, one is to dissolve glycogen. Dissolves glycogen in the liver. Dissolves glycogen in the liver to glucose to produce ATP, to produce energy. It dissolves glycogen in the liver to produce energy. So you probably might have heard when somebody talks about adrenaline and the person tells you that it is responsible for they call it the fight or flight hormone. So I choose to call it the adrenaline most times is regarded to as what? The fight is regarded to as the fight, flight, or freeze hormone. It is regarded to as the fight, flight, or freeze hormone. So this adrenal gland secretes the adrenaline and it is responsible for whatever action you portray when you find yourself in a sudden situation, in an emergency. Somebody who finds him or herself in an environment where is being determined to be a dangerous environment, where there is danger in the environment, either of these three things will happen. It is either the person will fight, or the person flies, that is runs away from the situation, or the person freezes. So those are the functions of adrenaline, and it is brought about when the glycogen in the body or the glycogen in the liver dissolves to produce what? To produce glucose. This glucose in turn is what gives energy. So that is what we refer to as what? The adrenaline. It is always what? Regarded to. It is regarded to as the emergency hormone. As the emergency hormone. So whatever happens in the situation of emergency, what your body determines to do in a situation of emergency, either to fight or to fly or to freeze, is as a result of the what? Or the function of the adrenaline. So that is the fourth hormone that we'll be discussing, and we have already shown where it is being located directly on the kidney. So that is where we have the what? The adrenaline. So the next hormone that we'll be talking about is going to be the pancreatic gland. The next gland rather that I'll be talking about is the pancreatic gland. So what is the function of the pancreatic gland? What do the pancreatic glands do? What are their functions? That is what we want to see now. So the pancreatic gland is responsible for producing both the digestive, it produces digestive enzymes as well as endocrine substances. The pancreas is responsible, or okay, let's say it serves a dual function. The pancreas serves a dual function. Serves a dual function. One, it serves as an organ it serves as an organ that produces digestive enzymes. Sorry. So this makes, let's try to make this very clear. Like I said, dual functions. So one, it serves as a site of production, as a site which produces digestive enzymes. And two, it serves as a site which produces what? The endocrine hormones. So those are the things that can happen in the pancreas. It is responsible for producing digestive enzymes as well as endocrine hormones. The digestive enzymes that are produced in the pancreas, we have the amylases, we have we have the trypsin and the amylases, the proteases and the rest of those. While we have the endocrine glands, the pancreatic gland producing the endocrine hormone called, there are two in number. The endocrine hormones are called, we have insulin and glucagon. So what is the function of each of these? What are the functions of each of these two hormones? Insulin converts what? Excess glucose that is found in the blood. The insulin is responsible for converting it to what we refer to as the storage form of sugar in our body called glycogen. So that is the function of insulin. It converts excess glucose to glycogen. While the other one called glucagon, the glucagon converts what? Glycogen back to glucose. So it is a two-way reaction. Let me put it here so we understand it better. let's assume we have excess glucose here. Excess glucose, that's sugar, in a reaction that is going forward. If we have it in a reaction that is going forward, so we have excess, I need us to understand this very well. So we have excess glucose going to being transformed by the enzyme called insulin, or the hormone called insulin, and it converts it to what? To glycogen. The excess glucose is being converted. This excess glucose here, the sugar that is found in the body, the extra sugar that our body has generated from the food we have eaten, is being converted by insulin to glycogen, and then this glycogen is stored in the liver. The glycogen is stored in the liver, and when the time comes for our body to make use of this glycogen, then the body calls upon the glycogen that is stored in the liver. So how does the body now make use of it? Because the body cannot use it in this raw form. So what the body does is to convert this glycogen back to its usable form, which is going to be what? The excess glucose. And what is responsible for that conversion? What we have that is responsible for that conversion is the second hormone that is produced in the body, which is what? The glucagon. The glucagon is the second hormone that is produced in the pancreas. So it is the function of the glucagon to what? Convert the glycogen back to the excess, back to sugar now. It converts it back to glucose, so the body can what? Can make use of it. So those are the what? The functions of the pancreatic gland. So like I said, the functions are to what? Convert excess glucose to glycogen, and then back the glycogen back to glucose by two hormones, insulin and glucagon. So this is where we have the pancreatic gland. You can see it here. The pancreas is situated here. You can see it. This is where we have the pancreas. We have the pancreas here. So that is where we have the what? Where we have the pancreas. So that is its own function. It is in this pancreas that we have the production of the two hormones, the insulin, which is responsible for converting the excess glucose to what? To glycogen, and then it is responsible for what? Producing the second hormone called glucagon that will help to convert the glycogen back to glucose for it to be used by the body. So those are the two hormones that are produced in the pancreas. So the next one we'll be talking about is the next gland that we'll be talking about is the gonad gland. Number 6. Gonad gland. The gonad gland. So what does the gonad gland do? What are the functions of the gonad gland? When we talk about the gonad gland, I need us to understand that we're talking about the glands that are responsible for producing the sex hormones that are found in animals. They are responsible for the production of the sex hormones found in animals. Particularly mammals. So these hormones are different in the genders. We have them different in the males than they are in the what? In the females. Now if you look at this diagram here, you will notice that we have testes. You can see here we have testes here. That is what we have in the male gonad hormone, and it is responsible for the production of a hormone called testosterone. That is the function of the testes. It is in the testes that we have the production of the gonad hormone for the males called testosterone. So in the males, it is what? It produces a hormone called, in the testes, we have the production of the hormone, of the sex hormone called testosterone. That is the name of the gonad hormone in the males. The name of the gonad hormone in the males is called testosterone. So it is this testosterone that is responsible for producing sperm cells in the male gonads. It is responsible for producing sperm cells in the male gonads. While in the females, we have the gonad hormone to be two. The first one is estrogen, and the second is called progesterone. So these are the two gonad hormones that are found in the females. The first one is estrogen, and the second one is called the progesterone. So each of them have their functions. For example, the estrogen is responsible for the commencement of oestrous cycle. It commences the oestrous cycle, while this one prepares mother for childbirth. So those are the functions of the two hormones, the estrogen and then the progesterone. The estrogen and the progesterone, they are secreted, they are hormones secreted from the ovary. You can see the female reproductive system there. So that is where we have the gonad hormone of the females. So for the course of this class, we'll be calling this particular session a day here. So if we have to quickly take a recap of all that we have done today, we'll find out that we started with explaining what we said, that is the endocrine glands. And I said that endocrine glands are responsible for secreting hormones, and that the hormones are chemical substances that have the ability to reverse certain processes in the body. And then we went further to talk about what hormones are. That we said that hormones are functional units of endocrine system. Hormones are functional units of the endocrine system. I also said that hormones are produced in a specific part of the body, and then they are that particular part of the body where they are produced is called the site of production. It's called the site of production. Where they are produced is what we refer to as the site of production. And then they are transported to transported to other sites of the body called the site of action. That is where the effects of these particular hormones are being felt, and it is the function of the blood to transport these hormones across the body. It is the function of the blood to transport the hormones across the body. And so we want further to talk about the endocrine glands that are found in the body. We talked about the different types of the endocrine glands that are found in the body. And so we started talking with we started our discussion by describing or discussing the pituitary gland. And I told us that the pituitary gland is situated in the forebrain, directly under the hindbrain. The pituitary gland is found under the hindbrain in the forebrain. And so before we talked about that, I made us understand that the hypothalamus serves a function of what? Helping to identify fluctuations in the body. The hypothalamus serves as a regulatory body or organ in the mammalian. Are we together? So it helps to what? Identify fluctuations that are found in the body, and when these fluctuations are identified, then commands are sent to the pituitary gland, which in turn sends messages towards other glands that will bring about the correction of those processes. So that is what we can see here as the function of the pituitary gland. I said it is what? Responsible for controlling the action of all other glands. You can see it that it controls the actions of all other glands. Hence, it is called the master gland. Because it is responsible for controlling the actions of other glands, it is then tagged the master gland. And then it is what? Responsible for growth and development. It is responsible for growth and development. Then we went further to talk about the second hormone from the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is said to what? Be situated in the neck. The thyroid gland is situated in the neck region. That is where we have the what? The thyroid gland. Are we together? Are we together? So when we have the thyroid gland situated in the neck, it produces the hormone called thyroxine. So what is the function of thyroxine? The thyroxine takes care of body metabolism as well as taking care of oxidation of glucose in animals. Then we said that this thyroxine contains active what? Chemical, which is what? Iodine. And this iodine helps to activate proper mental and muscle development. And then we went further to talk about the parathyroid gland. I said that the parathyroid gland is found under the thyroid gland, and it secretes the hormone called parathyroxine. And the function is to control the level of calcium and what? Phosphate ions. It controls the what? The level of calcium and phosphate ions that are found in the blood, in the bones, in the muscles, as well as in the nerves. It controls the level of calcium and phosphate ions in the blood, bones, muscles, and in the what? In the nerves. And then we went further to talk about the adrenal gland. That we said the adrenal gland produces what? The hormone called adrenaline. It is found on each kidney, and it secretes the hormone called adrenaline. Then its function is to dissolve glycogen. It dissolves glycogen in the liver to produce glucose, which is needed for energy. So we said that adrenaline is also called the fight, or freeze hormone. The fight, flight, or freeze hormone. So this is what happens when we find ourselves in an emergency state. Either of these three processes will happen. Either we run away, we try to fight the situation, or we freeze, not being able to do anything. And then the next gland we talked about was the pancreatic gland. Now we said that the pancreatic gland is responsible for serving a dual function. It produces digestive enzymes as well as endocrine hormones. So the digestive enzymes are the endocrine hormones that are produced. We said that what? The first one is called the what? The first one is insulin, and the second one is what? The second one is glucagon. So the insulin is responsible for converting excess glucose to glycogen. Insulin converts excess glucose to glycogen, while glucagon is responsible for converting glycogen back to glucagon. Sorry, this is an error here. It converts what? Sorry, please. It converts excess. Sorry, the glucagon converts glycogen back to glucose. Okay, that is what I wrote there. It converts it back to glucose. So we understand that insulin converts excess glucose to glycogen, and then glucagon converts glycogen back to glucose. That is what that particular enzyme does. So I tried putting it in a reaction here where we can see excess glucose or sugar is converted by insulin to glucagon, to glycogen, and then glycogen is converted back to what? Back to excess glucose by the action of glucagon. The first enzyme, the first hormone insulin, and the second hormone glucagon, they are both produced in the pancreas. And lastly, we talked about the gonad hormone. The gonad hormone produced in the gonad glands. So I said that they are responsible for producing what? The sex hormones. They are responsible for producing what? The sex hormones that are found in animals. So in the males, we have the what? The testes producing the hormone called testosterone. The males, we have the testes producing the hormone called testosterone, while in the females, the ovary helps in the production of the estrogen as well as what? The progesterone. The estrogen commences the oestrous cycle, while the progesterone prepares the mother for childbirth. So this is going to be the end of our class. Please stay tuned for our next video and on our next teaching, and always subscribe to our channel. Thank you.